Attention, please be advised that viewer discretion is strongly recommended. All parties are presumed innocent until proven guilty. Listen at your own discretion.
Day 21 of Diddy's federal trial just delivered a courtroom shocker, and it revolves around the Valentine's Day that sounds less like romance and more like a carefully orchestrated, deeply unsettling event. His ex, known as Jane, continued her testimony, and the details she revealed about one particular night are not just graphic, they have the potential to completely reshape how this entire case is perceived. We heard about rose petals and romantic gestures, but what unfolded next, according to Jane, involved a calculated play and a scene that's far from any typical celebration of love, leaving many wondering just what lines were crossed and if this could be the turning point everyone's been waiting for. The core of her third day on the witness stand was spent under the sharp, relentless scrutiny of Diddy's highly skilled attorneys. Their strategy was unambiguous: to dismantle the prosecution's narrative of coercion piece by piece, and instead to meticulously construct an image of Jane as a woman not just involved, but profoundly, even ecstatically in love with Sean Diddy Combs. They aimed to portray her as an active, willing, and sometimes even enthusiastic participant in the very lifestyle now under the harsh glare of federal prosecutors. To achieve this, they unleashed a barrage of Jane's own words. Her text messages displayed prominently for the jury to absorb. One after another, these digital communications painted a vivid picture of affection. A key piece of evidence highlighted was a text sent in August 2022, shortly after one of their hotel nights. This term, Jane's own euphemism for what fellow accuser Cassie had more bluntly labeled explicit group encounters, essentially intimate parties frequently involving Diddy, Jane, and men engaged for these encounters, became a focal point. In this message, Jane wrote to Diddy, "That was so much fun, baby. My love for you is unconditional and for life." The defense latched onto these words, "so much fun," emphasizing them as a direct contradiction to any claim of being forced or unwilling. They presented a cascade of similar communications, each one seemingly overflowing with declarations of love, adoration, and even apparent enjoyment of their shared experiences, including these controversial encounters. The courtroom atmosphere was tense as these intimate exchanges, once private, were laid bare, each one a potential blow to the prosecution's central argument. The defense attorneys masterfully wove these texts into a narrative suggesting Jane wasn't a victim, but a devoted partner reveling in a complex yet consensual relationship. The implication was clear. If she was truly having so much fun and expressing unconditional love, where was the coercion? Where was the trafficking? However, as the cross-examination continued and Jane was given the chance to contextualize these messages, the seemingly straightforward narrative presented by the defense began to fray, revealing layers of complexity and a far more troubling reality lurking beneath the surface of the loving words. The story, it was becoming clear, was far from simple. Based with her own words praising these encounters, particularly her positive feelings towards one male escort named Paul, whom she, Diddy, and Paul playfully nicknamed Shaq, Kobe, and Jordan, the trifecta, Jane offered a stark clarification. She explained that if she had to do what I had to do, at least it was somebody who had a warm energy about them. It was a chilling admission, framing her apparent enjoyment not as genuine desire, but as a coping mechanism. She testified that these hotel nights were essentially the unspoken terms and conditions of her relationship with Diddy. "If I see him, Diddy, there was a request for a hotel night," she stated, "so I'm just adapting to my circumstances." She even confessed, "Yes, there were moments when I suggest or organize these things, but critically added, under the pressures of my lover." This paints a picture not of a willing partner, but of someone navigating a gilded cage, making choices she felt were necessary to survive within the confines of a demanding and powerful relationship. The question hanging in the air became stark. Was this love or was it survival? And the lines were becoming increasingly disturbingly blurred. Then came another piece of evidence from the defense designed to muddy these waters further. Jane admitted on the stand to buying matching shorts for herself, Diddy, and an escort to wear during one of their hotel nights. If someone is truly against these encounters, would they be out shopping for coordinated outfits? It's a question that undoubtedly resonated with the jury. This action seems to fly in the face of her claims of coercion. Yet in the very same breath, the court heard more of Jane's effusive texts. After moving into an apartment Diddy still reportedly pays for, she texted him, The fact that you are the reason for my child's joy is a feeling inside me that I can't explain. I love you so much as my friend, my lover, my boyfriend, even though you don't like that word. She's gushing, professing deep love and acknowledging his financial support, even while hinting at their undefined relationship status. But perhaps the most telling and heartbreaking admission came when Jane tried to reconcile these contradictions. She stated, "I resent him for knowing how much I loved him and how I couldn't say no to him." The single sentence speaks volumes, suggesting a power imbalance where her love became a vulnerability that he perhaps exploited, knowing she wouldn't or couldn't refuse him. This wasn't just about love, it was about the inability to say no, and that raises a whole new set of questions.
In this central agonizing question, what exactly did Diddy know about Jane's true feelings, looms over the entire trial. For the prosecution to make the grave charge of sexual exploitation stick, they need to prove Diddy was aware he was coercing her, that her participation wasn't truly willing. Jane did testify that there were occasions where she explicitly told him she didn't want to continue these hotel nights. His response, she claimed, was always to push, to tell her, look, you just gotta try it. She then, by her own admission, would often take an illicit substance to get through it, a detail that paints a grim picture of her state of mind. But with Diddy almost certainly not taking the stand to offer his side of the fence, the jury is left in a difficult position. They won't hear his direct account of these conversations, his understanding of her protests, or his interpretation of her enthusiastic texts. They're left to piece together his awareness solely from James' testimony, a testimony riddled with its own complex emotional landscape. Did he genuinely believe she enjoyed these encounters, blinded by her loving words and occasional initiative, or did he knowingly exploit her vulnerability and stated reluctance? The answer to that question is everything.
The intensity of these hotel nights was further underscored when Jane described their longest encounter, a staggering 3-day marathon session stretching over New Year's from 2022 into 2023 involving 3 different men. The sheer duration alone raises eyebrows and implies a significant level of, at the very least, endurance, likely fueled by substances as she previously admitted. But it's what happened after this marathon that seemed to plant a new seed of resentment in Jane. Sometime after New Year's, she noticed Diddy vacationing very publicly with another woman named Gina, a name that had surfaced before in connection to Diddy's other relationships. He was on social media with Gina, open about their connection in a way he never was with Jane. This public display, this apparent preference, became a major sticking point for Jane, as she admitted on the stand. The sting of being the secret while another woman enjoyed the spotlight clearly fueled a growing frustration and perhaps a desperate need to change her standing in his life. And what she did next would take their already fraught dynamic to an entirely new level.
It was this potent cocktail of jealousy and desperation that led to the now infamous Valentine's Day incident in 2022. Jane testified that after seeing Diddy flaunting his vacation with Gina, she decided to play the hotel night card on him for the first time. She essentially dangled a hotel night as bait, as the transcript phrases it, to lure him back, and it reportedly worked. Diddy allegedly cut his vacation with Gina short and returned. To sweeten the pot, Jane says she decorated the hotel room herself, scattering rose petals everywhere, creating an illusion of romance. But this time, she took an unprecedented step. For this Valentine's party, Jane herself hired 2 men she hired for the event to be there with her and Diddy. It was a shocking admission, her taking the initiative to escalate the nature of their encounters, seemingly in a desperate bid for his attention, and perhaps to prove her value or outdo his other interests. This wasn't just participating anymore, this was orchestrating. But if she thought this grand, albeit twisted gesture would be enough, she was apparently mistaken, as the fallout from this night would only deepen the complexities of their story.
This cycle of desperation became a recurring theme in Jane's testimony. She made it painfully clear that she felt she had to keep engaging in these hotel nights, even escalating them just to secure any sliver of Diddy's attention. Her ultimate desire, it seems, was to be his recognized girlfriend, for him to be her boyfriend in a public, acknowledged way. This yearning clashed dramatically with Diddy's openly polyamorous lifestyle, a stance he had reportedly communicated to her early in their relationship. The crux of Jane's anguish appeared to stem not solely from the nature of the hotel nights themselves, but from her secret status, her relegation to the shadows while others basked in the public light of his affection. This internal conflict, wanting a conventional, recognized relationship while participating in and at times even orchestrating unconventional and illicit encounters, presents a profound challenge for the jury. Does her active participation, born from a desperate desire for love and recognition, negate the possibility of coercion? Or does it highlight a more insidious form of control, where Diddy allegedly exploited her emotional needs and insecurities to maintain the very dynamic she claimed to despise? The legal definition of being forced into something, especially in the context of allegations of sexual exploitation, becomes incredibly nuanced here.
If Jane felt these acts were her only currency for his attention, was she truly free to refuse without losing him entirely? A prospect she clearly found unbearable. The defense will argue she was a willing, if conflicted, participant. The prosecution must prove Diddy criminally exploited that conflict, knowing her actions stemmed not from genuine desire for the acts themselves, but from a desperate, manipulated heart. The true nature of consent in such a power imbalance and emotionally charged arena is what the jury must now untangle. And the answer is anything but simple. So after this explosive day of testimony, who came out on top? On the surface, Diddy's defense team certainly landed some heavy blows, painting Jane as someone who, at times, actively sought out and even orchestrated these encounters, professing love all the while. They presented a compelling case that she wanted to be in this relationship regardless of its unconventional terms.
However, there's a powerful undercurrent that can't be ignored. If the jury, despite Jane's complicated admissions, harbors a deep-seated dislike or distrust for Diddy, they might still view her actions through a lens of sympathy. They could interpret her choices not as willing participation, but as the desperate measures of someone caught in an overwhelming power dynamic, feeling she had no other way to secure affection or stability. Even if she didn't explicitly scream, "I am being forced" in every text, the jury might still conclude that Diddy should have known, that he exploited her vulnerability regardless. This trial forces us to confront uncomfortable questions about love, power, consent, and the dark complexities that can exist within relationships, especially when fame and influence are involved. What truly constitutes coercion when emotions are so deeply entangled? As we head into day 22, with at least one of Diddy's former assistants and another individual named Andre expected to testify, the only certainty is that more layers of this disturbing saga are yet to be peeled back. What will their stories reveal, and how will it sway a jury grappling with such a profoundly human, yet legally critical dilemma?